Should Wayne Rooney get more time? The fan base is divided. In fact, they're fighting in the stands. So it's going to be a lively one, this one. Are you Rooney in or are you Rooney out? Welcome to Where Pilgrims Walk. We have got Chris and Jaden back with us. Welcome back, gentlemen. How are you?
Yeah, all good. Thank you, Mark. Hope you've had a good week.
Absolutely.
Better than ours.
Yeah, fighting fit. Coming up then this week, let's run through our menu. We are talking, of course, about the big debate, which I know lots of Plymouth fans are divided on. Should Rooney get more time? We'll talk about Palsson and some of the comments around his performance, of course, at the weekend. We're going to talk about the January transfer window and what on earth should be the priorities for Plymouth. And if you can, we're going to ask Jaden and Chris to pick their November player of the month. Before we go any further, though, do please drop us a subscribe if you haven't done already. This is 20 minutes weekly of everything Plymouth Argyle. Dear Jaden, let's start with you this week, shall we? I'm not sure even where to start. Is this? Can you remember weeks as bad as this as a Plymouth fan?
I mean, we can because we've had way too many of them this season, but yeah, that's as bad as it gets, pretty much. And there's been far too many occasions where it's been so similar to that. Just no defence at all for the last two goals. Grimshaw saved us from being probably 7 or 8 at least. Honestly, awful.
10 goals in a week, Chris. To be, the only cloudy lining is that you are playing away from home. You're playing against a resurgent Norwich side, and you're playing against, I think, a very good Bristol City side. So you're playing the top order away from home. But that's probably as far as I can excuse it. You were there for both. What did you make of it?
Very difficult to turn around and argue against your Norwich City scenario, Mark, but Bristol City, I didn't think they were that good. We held them off a 0-0 at half-time. But to be honest with you, they had chance after chance after chance. And if it wasn't for Dan Grimshaw, we could have been 3 or 4 down in the first half. So I'll make no excuses for that. But what happened in the second half, it was a scenario of a disaster waiting to happen. It was just a case of when are they going to score, not if are they going to score. And when they did, you knew what was going to happen then. The floodgates were going to open. And they did. And unfortunately, as you say, it got a bit toxic in the stand. Never good to see.
No. In terms of the manager, then let's just go straight into that debate, shall we? Where are you, Jaden? Are you give him till the end of the year, give him till the end of the season, or give him till the end of the Oxford 90 minutes?
For me, if we lose on Saturday, there's questions, serious questions have got to be asked. And I think he will have to go if we lose on Saturday at home against Oxford. That's a big game. And if we don't at least get a point, then he has to get sacked.
Okay.
For me.
Yeah. Chris, are you a little bit more forgiving? Are you going to give him till the end of the calendar year, or
I'm a little bit. Yeah, I'm a little bit more forgiving, Mark. We are suffering, as I've told you before, with injuries. We've got about 6 first-team players. Unfortunately, one of them is our captain and leader. And at the moment, those players on the pitch, nobody is leading by example there. They're not taking the Joe Edwards role, and we're missing him massively. I mean, I see Wayne Rooney at the moment under 3 different scenarios. One is he could walk. He doesn't really need a job managing football. His wife's earning more money in the jungle over the next couple of weeks than what he's getting for the full season with us. So does he need the money? Does he need the hassle? No. But what he does want is to use us as a stepping stone to further his career, to hopefully get a bigger job. Well, he's not going to get a bigger job if he walks away. So he's probably unlikely to walk. The other scenario, do we sack him? I can't see that happening. It's possible. It's certainly possible if we lose our 2 home games, Oxford / Swansea. If that happens, then it's going to be as toxic at home park as what it was at Ashton Gate on Saturday, unfortunately. But given the fact that we may not lose certainly both games, I'd love to think the third scenario is that we keep him in the transfer window. And you asked a question last week about, is Simon Hallett under any pressure to get players in and spend money? I would say to you, this is the biggest transfer window of the last 5 for us. Since we got promotion, we got 5 players in that January 23 window. This is as important as that, if not more so. We've meant to have a 5-year plan. That's all going to go down the pan if we don't get at least another 5 decent championship players in that January transfer window. Because at the moment, what I'm watching, and I think Jaden probably the same, what we're watching is a woeful team that's lacking complete confidence, cohesion, and ability.
I didn't show you the tweets. You've probably seen them all already. Let's have a look at some of them. Evan agrees with you, Jaden. If we fail to win on Saturday, Rooney simply has to go. There's legitimately no way of anyone saying anything different. A few more. I mean, first of all, Jen, you said if he draws, he stays. If it's a draw, does he go as well?
If he draws, I'd give him Swansea.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
This is from an article, because I don't understand the anger of it. So there are clearly issues beyond Rooney's control. No one expects Argyle to be pushing for a top 10 spot. Staying goes to priority. However, it's the collapses in the away games against Sheffield Wednesday, Cardiff, Norwich, and Bristol City that have been very alarming. Charlie says, total lack of self-awareness or inclination to own the problem himself. Happy to throw players under the bus at every opportunity. Those who are appointed in are obvious by their absence. They're much to blame as he is. He needs to be removed from this show ASAP. Obviously, as an Everton fan, I want Rooney to do well here, Chris. But when you come out after the Norwich game and say the under-18s would have played better, how do you feel as a player listening to your manager call you out publicly for that? I think that's the beginning of a slippery slope, personally.
No, I totally agree, Mark. I've said it a few times recently over the last week. It's okay digging your players out, and he certainly did that against Norwich, and probably rightly so. But he did it equally, if there's not more so, against Bristol City after that performance. If he hasn't already, he's coming close to losing that changing room. The only thing I will say is the players got to take blame for this. You know, it's not all about Wayne Rooney. And for people to say, let's sack him, look at the different scenario. How do we afford to sack him? I'm not sure what contract he's on, but we just went through it in the summer with Ian Forster. We got rid of him, sacked him, cost us best part of £1 million. And that damaged our transfer window. We do it again now, then it could damage our transfer window in the January scenario. And plus, any player, any manager that's coming in, they're going to not want the heap of players that we've got. So he's going to have to get more in himself. So do we give a new player a new brush sweeps clean scenario, or do we keep Rooney, who at least knows the competence or lack of competence in the ones he's got and where he needs to replace them?
Okay. Jaden, it was this time last year, roughly, when we were talking about obviously Schumacher heading off and Ian Foster being found. Twice now they've taken their time with appointments. They don't rush into them. So what is going on at that level of recruiting managers? Because twice now it's taken a while, and both times it's come up short.
Scousers. No, yeah, it's a problem, our recruitment, and that's obviously why a lot of people are angry with the board, as well as the investment. The recruitment in the players and managers hasn't been good enough for a couple of years now, since we've gone up, really. I know we don't have a big budget, but there's just times where we've shown that the players we have hired haven't been good enough. Yeah, and it's not the right direction that we want to take when we have such a low budget.
Okay. We wish, of course, Rooney all the best for this Saturday, and hope you can beat Oxford, who have been on the slide themselves. Another name that has cropped up this week, though, Chris, is Palsson. Sam at the bottom here says, I genuinely never want to see Palsson in an Argyle shirt again. He's stealing a living. Jack says, Wayne Rooney built in Palsson, Tijani and Ogbeta that alone is enough to warrant him being sacked. Yeah, I mean, I've seen some of that defending in Bristol City, and I can understand where people are coming from here. But is he being made a scapegoat, or is everything what everyone says correct?
Everything what everyone says about Victor Poulsen is 100% correct. How that man is an Icelandic international is beyond me. It just tells me how bad Iceland is, because he is shocking. No, and I'm not just saying it out of turn, being wise after the event. I said it back in the summer. He was first game against Sheffield Wednesday. He was terrible, absolutely shocking. As is Better. Better was our first signing. Yeah. So where the recruitment came in for those two, and I've said it to you in the past, both of those are absolutely horrendous. And Poulsen deserves all the discredit that he's getting. If he never wore an Argyle shirt again, then I'll be happy. The unfortunate thing is, whether he does or whether he don't, I've heard it on good authority, he's meant to be on £10,000 a week. I wouldn't give him 10,000 washers.
Thank you, Chris. Jayden, was there any positives at all in terms of player performances? You've mentioned Grimshaw. Any others that we get heralded for not being negative on here? Is there any other positives we need to shout out before we move on from this disastrous week?
I don't think so.
Maybe the fans travelling to Norwich on a Tuesday night. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, sold out.
All right. Listen, good luck against Oxford. Let's switch gears then now and talk about January transfer window. So with Rooney in charge or not, Chris, what are the priorities for Plymouth in terms of loans or permanent signings? What positions do we desperately need to fill?
Well, we just mentioned Poulsen or Better. Hopefully that's the last time we'll mention them. Both full-backs. So there's clearly an issue that we need full-backs. Joe Edwards, when he was playing, he was our right back. We miss him massively. But I think if we had a priority, we're talking priorities here, central attacking midfielder. We went for him in the summer. I'm hoping there's a good chance to get him back in January. Michael Bader. Now, if he rocks up, I think then that'll make a massive difference to our club, and hopefully we can build around that man. But we don't need one or two, like I said earlier. We need about five or six, because the rot at the moment has set in.
Jayden?
I think our strikers haven't been good enough. Archie Gray's stepped up in a couple of games. I think a lone striker would be good. Jayden Dans is under the radar. He has been for a while, apparently. I think he'd be a very good signing if we can get him, if he's obviously attracted, because we've not been good enough. So hopefully he'll actually come. And then we need fullbacks, centre backs, you name it. But yeah, loan players I think should be the focus, and to get rid of a couple of loans as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. This was put on by the Fat Jana. I've noticed there's a lot of divide between Argyle fans at the moment about the board, Rooney and players, but can we all agree we need to bin that white kit? I'm pretty sure every drubbing we've had has been in white, whereas if we've done conceded yes in yellow. There's a Plymouth stat guy out there that's definitely counted this up. So get in touch with us if you can tell us whether there's any significant fact. This one I did like. Tom says, if, and it's a big if, Rooney was to leave before the end of the season, I personally would forget Schumacher and just make Joe Edwards the player manager. You having that, Chris?
I'll tell you what, that's not a bad shout, to be fair. The only thing is, it's a real tough ask to come in at the moment in Championship as an inexperienced person to suddenly take over a club. And if he goes down, he's going to get the grief, undeservedly so as well. Then I wouldn't like to see that happen to him.
Yeah.
Okay. Finally, then this week, of course, we're talking November Player of the Month, if we can find it. Now, you've had some, we forget about home park wins, haven't we? You've done some really good wins, Sunderland and Blackburn and so on, and good teams as well. So it's not all doom and gloom. Jayden, who sticks in your mind for picking up the accolade this month?
It's got to be Grimshaw or Archie Gray. Has to be. Grimshaw stepped up in some important games, important moments at the end of games. And Grimshaw could save the Titanic.
Yeah. Okay. Chris?
No, I agree with Jaden. It's got to be 100% Dan Grimshaw for me. Even the games we've won, if it wasn't some of the saves that he's pulled off, we could have toppled quite easily in those games. It's no coincidence as well. At home, we've come out with the resilience to be able to get those goals in the 90-plus minute. But we could have been dead and buried long before that if it wasn't for Grimshaw in many of those games.
Okay. Right. Great shouts. Let us know in the comments below whether you can add any more to it. Right, let's have a look for a positive week then. Fingers crossed for Oxford. I would hate to think what the stage is going to be like if Oxford were to score first. I hope it doesn't turn too nasty. Chris, you wanted to just comment on the fans in the state and falling out with each other in the stands before we finish.
Well, yeah. Every supporter pays his money. He's got the right to spout verbals at the team, shout verbals, as long as it's not over the top too much and people leave early. I get people leaving early. I'm not one of those, but I do get it. What I don't get is when you're 50-50 and you're all as one club, so all as one group of supporters supporting the same aim. It boils over and you get so toxic that it gets physical. I don't get that. And it wasn't just the odd scuffle, it wasn't just alcohol involved. It was, well, it might well have been all over the place, but also at least half a dozen sort of areas where there was fighting and there was, why? There's no need for that. Well, I'm not sure whether we had 3,200, 3,400 there, and obviously Bristol City is our closest game. Whether that attracted people that don't normally attend the away games, I'm guessing it was that because it was an easy trip up on the train, you're drinking all the way and getting there and carrying it on, and then obviously that leads to it did lead on Saturday, unfortunately, to physical. I'll go up there, have a couple of pints, never been physical, and never wanted to be. Even though I witnessed some of it in front of me, I was with a couple of women. I just didn't want that going on where I was. The chairman witnessed it. He could see the how toxic the atmosphere was. We don't really want that away games or home games.
Okay. Well said. Especially as Argyle, always when we ask other fans, come up as the best fans, best travelling away fans from all the other teams that we speak to as well. We don't want to see that. Let's hope it turns around then this week. Good luck against Oxford, and we'll see you in 7 days' time, hopefully with a smile on your face.